The question has given to you alpha and beta are the zeros of the polynomial. The polynomial has been given to you and they have mentioned that alpha and beta are the zeros. Now I hope you have already studied the topic, and zeros are supposed to be those values upon plugging them into the equation, the whole equation becomes 0. So you have done factorization before. If you recall the concept of factorization, what we used to do? We used to split the middle term into two terms such that their sum is always equal to this, while the product is always equal to the last term. Sometimes when you have the value at the front, the leading coefficient if you have, then you have to multiply and their product is equal to the product of the two values you'll be taking. So from there comes the concept of sum and product of roots. So every quadratic, just a moment, let me open my chat. All right. Okay, let's continue with the topic for now and I'll get back to you, okay? Hi, hello. AK Gaming, yes, hello. I believe you are here to study for class 10, yeah? So I would like to go ahead and start with the first topic. So, Hindi, somebody has wrote that. My Hindi is not so good actually, or you know, मेरा हिंदी उतना भी अच्छा नहीं है और मैं उतना अच्छे से शायद ना समझा पाऊँ, तो इसकी वजह से आई लाइक टू कंटिन्यू इन इंग्लिश, ओके? सो मेरा ये थोड़ा सा दिक्कत हो सकता है, और नहीं तो आपको फिर मैथ से ज़्यादा मेरा एक्सेंट में ध्यान जाएगा, तो विच आई डोंट वांट, ओके? सो let's get started with the question. As I was saying, any question from polynomials. This year, you have studied polynomials before in class 9. So, in class 10, polynomials they are little different. Now, the thing is, if you have a polynomial like this given to you, then every time a polynomial is represented as what? The sum. The middle term always represents the sum and the last term always represents the product. If you have a multiple at the front, then this is the standard way of a quadratic equation. I think you know that, ax square plus bx plus c, okay? So now if I'll remove this a, to remove this a from the first term, I'll divide the entire equation by a, giving me x square alone, and then I get b by a here and then c by a. So as I told you, like in splitting the middle term, what do you do is you always represent the middle term as the sum of the two values that you are getting as the factors of the last term. So this here represents the sum. And note that one thing, if you have a quadratic factors as x plus alpha and x plus beta, if you get these as the two factors, then what do you do to solve them, or to finally write the value of x here? Because you want to make the polynomial 0, so you will plug in the value of x as minus alpha and minus beta. Yeah? So that is the reason why it should make sense to you, one thing, that the sum value, whatever is given to you, this middle value always represents the sum, but in the opposite manner, or you just have to consider the negative of that. The logic is because if the roots are minus alpha and minus beta, then only we'll get a positive x term, or similarly if it is alpha and beta, then we'll get the middle term negative. Okay, so this is the concept. I hope your teacher has already told you that, and I believe that you have studied this already. So this is the concept where it comes from. And now, if this is the case, then what are you supposed to do? The middle term always represents the sum, as I said. So how should you approach a question like this? They have given to you alpha and beta are the zeros. For the given polynomial, you will find the sum of alpha, or sum of roots, alpha plus beta. As I said, alpha and beta are the roots, then the sum is represented by the negative coefficient of x divided by the coefficient of x squared. Okay, I can simplify this. It gives me -2. So alpha plus beta here is -2. Okay, now likewise, the product of roots is always represented by the middle term divided by the leading coefficient, or the coefficient of x squared. So clearly, because my k is unknown here, so I'll write in terms of k itself. I'll get k upon 3. So once I have the values of the two, now question has given me one more information, that alpha plus alpha beta is equal to -2 upon 3. So I will use this equation, and into this equation I'm going to plug in the value of alpha plus beta, which I got it as -2, and instead of alpha beta I'll write down k upon 3. So this is equal to -2/3. Okay, how will you solve it? You can bring this -2 to the other side like you do for any linear equation in one variable. This equation is now in terms of k, so you have to find k. It's actually simple, -2/3 plus 2. Okay, because -2 comes to the other side, it becomes the opposite. So from here I can simplify. K upon 3 should be equal to, obviously, 2 minus 2/3. That is what we are doing. So if you can be quick with fractions, 2 minus, what should you do is 2 minus 1, which is 1. Okay, and why did I subtract 1 here is because that 1 I'm going to use to subtract 2/3, which gives me 1/3. So 1 1/3. Otherwise, I can write this as 3 times 1, 3 plus 1, 4. So 4 upon 3. I got the value of k third, or k upon 3, as 4 upon 3. When you have the same denominators, you get rid of them, and that is how you get the answer k is equal to 4. I took time to explain you, but if you are doing it all by yourself, it should barely take you 10 seconds. Okay, this is the exact way you approach a question where the sum and the product is connected. This is the connection. Always remember, the middle term represents the negative sum of roots. Okay, always take the negative of what value you have been given, and then likewise for product you take it as it is. All right, now let's move to the next question. I hope this question made sense.